Welcome to a new tutorial on Airbush 1. My name is Lonnie Bush, and today we're going to build this conveyor system. Pretty simple setup, but there's some cool stuff that we'll learn. So no file to download. We're going to just go in here and start with a rectangle. And these sizes are arbitrary, but if you do the same sizes as me, then you'll have some idea of if yours looks like mine. So let's start out by making the width 1550 and the height I think 1400, and click the rounding. Let's get this in the port. We want to click the rounding and we'll make that 340. Okay. And we're going to build this whole rig basically on this rectangle. And we're going to use the matrix object to basically construct all of our hubs and arms and everything. And I'm going to be real brief on this. The reason I'm using the matrix instead of a cloner, because you could use a cloner, it's just some of the other things we're going to do makes the cloner difficult, because the matrix, if you'll see here, has these little cubes, but there's no geometry there, all right? So it's kind of like a point cloud with a lot of extra control. So we're going to use the matrix, and then we're going to build everything onto that. So one thing we want to do is let's get our object manager arranged properly. And what I mean by that is the rectangle is going to be the major base of our rig, and then the second, the thing that comes next will be the matrix. And so you want to make sure, for priority reasons, that these things stay one under the next. Okay? So let's go into the matrix. Let's choose object, and we're just going to pull our rectangle in here, and we're going to do 34 of these. All right, 34 of these matrices, and that's going to give us, well, you'll see, and we're going to go to even. We want to even, okay, and deselect per segment, and let's click smooth rotation. And you want to, it's already by default in loop, and we want that. Okay, so this is the beginning of our setup. And what we want to do is we want to be able to move these matrices in and out to create our arms. So what I want to do is, with that matrix, and let's name this main matrix. And we're going to name this as main, or whatever you want, main rectangle, because we're going to end up with quite a few objects in here, and we want to be able to refer back. Okay, so with the main matrix selected, let's go up to your Mograph, your effectors, and grab a plane effector. All right, and we want to zero out Y. Okay, and let's put 80 in X, and that should move everything in a little bit. All right, and then we want to, let's just move that down, and we're going to put plane effector, move 80 on X. All right, so we'll know what that one's for. Now, if you've not used a Mograph Selection, we're going to do that right now. And so with the matrix selected, come up to Mograph, and you see this Mograph Selection. And as soon as you grab that, you see that you've got a kind of a dual thing. You still see the matrix, but there's a little red square there now, all right? And what we want to do is select every other one of these, okay? So as you're selecting, okay, if you mess up, if you select one you're not supposed to, like that, hold down Control on the Mac. You have to let off first and deselect it, then come back and hold Shift. All right, and so then you can come back and select the rest of these. Okay. All right. So I've got every other one selected. And before we do the next step, let's go ahead and name this move out. We're going to put -200 on X. And the reason I'm naming it now is if after our next move, when we select our next effector, if you go to name it again, go to name it afterwards, after it's in the effector, it doesn't recognize that tag anymore, which makes no sense, but you will have to go in and pull the tag back into the effector. All right, so with the main matrix selected and the tag selected, we're going to go back up and we're going to choose a plane effector. All right, and you see some weirdnesses happen, and that's just because Y has a number in it. Let's take that out, and let's put -200 in here in X. Okay, so now we have basically the bones of our setup, and in order to get some armatures between those, let's move this down. Let's rename this move -200 on X. Okay. And so what we want to do is we want to again select our main matrix and go in here and grab the tracer. All right. So that'll automatically put the main matrix into the tracer. And we want to connect all objects. You can deselect trace vertices. It won't matter because there aren't any. And already you can see we've got our armatures, and we're missing this one. And if we go in and close the spline, you can see it connects it all. All right. So, and we don't want any intermediate points. We only want the points at the matrices. Okay. Okay, so let's bring our tracer down. Remember our order of operation here. Spline, matrix, and then the tracer is next. It's referencing the matrix. And let's just name this arms is fine. And if you haven't saved yet, I haven't, so I'm going to save conveyor into the same file. Okay. So now we want to get a cloner and create our arms. So we're going to pop that in there, and I'm going to pull it down here, and I'm going to go ahead and name it arms. Oops. All right. And for this right now, we're just going to use a capsule. We're going to change that later, but we're going to get it set up first. All right, let's throw that in there. And we want to set this to object. We're going to pull the arms tracer into here. And that's not what we're looking for. And so under distribution, come down and set that to vertex. Okay, so now we have one at every vertex, which isn't exactly right, but it's getting us closer. And I think it's P, yeah. Okay, and we're going to do 90 on P. Now, if we put a null into our scene, all right, and we're going to bring that null into here, into our cloner, and put our capsule under that null. Now we'll be able to move this, oops, not that one. Move this on Y, okay, and then we can adjust the height of that, and that gives us the beginning of the arms. But as you can see, they're all in the same place, and we don't want that. I'm going to take this down to, I don't know, 18 for now. Okay. Eventually, we want to have the armatures back, like offset is what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right. Okay, and let's just check this out. If you go into your main matrix, you're going to notice, because we basically cloned this onto an object, these matrices, it gave us a field down here for rate and rate variation. So let's just put 6% in there and hit play. And you see we've already got movement on our rig, and I want to put 900 frames in here so that I'm not having that jerk at the end each time. Okay, so we've already got our movement, and I mean this is the nucleus of this rig, and from here on out we're just going to add to it. So I do want to go ahead and put in our second set of arms. So let's call this arms 1. And then if you hold that down and hold control and pull another one into your object manager, and we'll just name that 2. Okay. Now, I don't know if you noticed before when I brought that null in, there was an interesting thing that happened, and we're going to use that to our advantage. So I'm going to click another null in here, and I'm going to drag it into here, and we're going to turn this off for a second. And you see what's happening is it's reading this empty null, so it's giving us a space in here. And if we do the same thing with this one, okay, let's click another null into here. And I'm going to pull it into there, but this time I'm going to put our arm null, and let's go ahead and name that arm2 null. And we're going to name this one arm1 null. Okay. And so now if I turn that on, you're going to see we're back to all the armatures being on there. But now, because of using 2 different cloners to do this, we can move this. Oops, not the right one. Not the right one. Okay. Move this on Y. And so now we can offset our armatures and start to get something a little more mechanical looking. All right. And everything works perfectly. Okay. So we'll make those armatures a little more interesting later on. All right. So we're going to use the basically same technique to create our hubs. So let's click another cloner into there, and let's drag the cloner down and name this hubs. Okay, and let's just grab a oil tank, and we're just going to leave it like that for a second, drag it into the cloner, and we're going to clone in object mode, and we're going to clone onto this arms tracer. Okay, and again we want to go to distribution and set to vertex. Okay, so now we can bring down the radius and bring down the height probably. Okay, and I think we need the cap height to come down. There we go. I don't really want it to look like a whatchamacallit. Okay. All right, so in order to get this lined up right, we need to establish our main guide that goes through the inner hubs. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so before we do that, I want you to select the main rectangle and go into the Basic tab. Let's turn that on so it's a color, and so I'm just going to make mine green because I want to be able to see at all times our original spline that we're using, that the whole rig is based off of. So, and I'm also going to turn off my hubs for a second. Actually, I'm going to turn all this stuff off. Okay, so this may seem a little counterintuitive, but the reason I'm going to do it this way is so that this rig is constantly able to be readjusted in size. When you're done, you should be able to adjust this rectangle to any size just about that you want, and these armatures and everything will stay intact. You may have to make minor adjustments to the length of the arms and such. So anyway, what we want to do is take our main matrix, and we're just going to hold down Control, and we're going to drag a copy, and then just pull it down here, and let's call this inner track. Okay, and you'll see what that's going to be here in a second. All right. Now, the thing we don't need, though, is we don't need this selection, and I want to get rid of that. And we don't need this move on. I'm sorry, I'm probably moving too fast here. If you go to the Matrix Effector tab, all we want to keep is this plain move 80 on X. We can just get rid of this one. Okay. And now you see, and I don't know why we still see that selection, but let's just click off. And now we've got a set of matrices that will give us our inner track. And so what we want to do is hold that down, and we want to go up to Mograph and grab another tracer. So we want to trace those matrices. That's why I said it seems a little counterproductive, but we want to connect all objects, and let's make this cubic and close the spline, and let's give this a uniform of about 8. Now we've got a nice smooth inner track, and we're going to name that inner track. Your tendency might be to just want to use another spline for that, okay? And you know, that'd be fine, but getting it lined up as perfectly, let's go into our front view, lined up as perfectly as that might be tricky. And also, once you start changing, if you want to change the size of this, the inner one, if you use a separate thing, is going to have to be changed as well, and you'll constantly be messing around with that. So before we get too far, I want to put some geometry on that. And I have these CV sweep objects that automatically, you know, basically just sets everything up. And you can get them if you're a member of Cineversity. You can get them there. You know, it saves you a little bit of time, but you certainly don't need them. You could just create your objects like that. And I'm gonna just create a quick material, just a white to throw on there. And so now we have our inner sweep, and eventually, you know, that these outer hubs are going to ride along that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that set where we want to have it. So one thing we do want to do with our inner track, because we don't really need it to move, so put your rate to 0. We don't want that track moving around. We just want these things moving on it. And as you can see, we really want this rail out towards the end of our mechanism. So if we go into our matrix object, go to the transform tab, and let's move this to about, we want to get some separation. So let's make it 60, all right? And once we do that, we can see, well, maybe our hubs need to be a little longer. Okay. All right. So now we've got that hub so that it is going to ride over that track pretty well. Yep. Okay. All right. That looks good. So we want to be able to, let me turn the arms on. We want to be able to create hub-looking things for these arms so that it doesn't look like it's just, you know, this, you know, it's okay looking, but it doesn't really look mechanical like these things would actually move. So in order to do that, let's create a null. And we're going to create some hub mechanisms, basically. And hold down Control and just copy that tank object. And then we're going to put this one into this null. And for now, let's just turn that off. Oops, no, that's the one. Okay, actually, we want to switch these. Okay, we want that top one. There we go. Okay, so you'll see why we put that in a null here in a minute, so we can move it. What I want to do is I want to reduce the size, the length of that hub. And now we can move it forward. Okay. And we're getting close. 70 looks good. Maybe make it 30. Oops. All right, so 70 and 30. So now those will ride right along that hub. And now we can start building the rest of this thing. And so let's get just a cylinder and drop that under the oil tank and reduce this diameter way down. And you know, you can make this as complex or as simple as you want. I kind of liked making it kind of complex, so created like a small diameter, like a rod that these are going to go on. And then I want to create, I'm going to just duplicate this cylinder, hold down Control and duplicate it. And this one I want to make bigger and shorter. So you're going to see I'm creating kind of a flange for this arm. Okay, and I can see that we're going to have to move probably this back arm or the front arm up. Let's see. Oops, nope, that's not what I want. Okay, arms, cloner 1. Let's get rid of the 2 for now. And okay. And I do want to see those. So we're going to move that back a little bit. Yeah, okay. Now we can turn it off. And that's looking pretty good. Like I said, we're going to change these arms. But until we do, let's go ahead and let's round that. Not that much. And just so we got a nice little rounding to that flange, and maybe it needs to be slightly bigger. Okay, so 41 looks pretty good. And again, like I said, just if you've got a different idea for it, go ahead, because it's all pretty arbitrary. Okay, so let's don't turn that on just yet. And we want to turn on the other armature. And let's create another duplicate of that. And we can move that back to this one. And it's kind of cool having a little bit of space between there, especially when you go to render, if you were rendering with ambient occlusion. So let's go back. Oh, there's one. Okay, it must have been ours too. Okay. All right, and then just get that lined up in there. Pretty good. And if you hold down Option and just scroll over this wheel, you can get some percentage or some fractions in there. Okay. And so we'll need probably one more hub to fill that out at the end. Okay. So well, this is going to be a little messy, but that's all right. We'll get rid of it. Just got to throw these cylinders away. I duplicated that one. All right. And okay, and I'm going to make that quite a bit smaller. Okay. And again, yeah, whatever you want to do with that. But right now, you know, we got kind of a cool looking mechanism that actually looks like it, you know, may actually be constructed that way. And so everything is moving very well. All right, and if you haven't saved in a while, you might want to do that now. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this other hub on. All right. And let's reduce the length on that, the height of that thing way back. And maybe even that. We want a little different mechanism for this. Okay, so let's get a cylinder. And actually we can drag one of these cylinders into there. All right. Now, of course, it's not going to line up right, or is it? Actually, it does look like it is. Yep. Okay. All right. Because that was part of that one. We're going to need, though, I think a little more length. And go ahead and drag one of these in there. Oop, not that one. Let's grab this one. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So now we might want to reduce the height of that, so it's not sticking out so far. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Maybe take the radius down. All right. So now we got the second hub going. Everything's working good. Okay. Don't forget to save. Okay, we're going to do a little more work on this other hub, but let's go ahead and get our carriages in here. So if you just grab a cube, let's make it about 190 on X, say 610 on Y, and 152 on Z. That's what I had used. So now we need to figure out which way this is going to fit on here. And in order to do that, we're going to have to convert it. Okay, so just hit your C key and convert that. And we're going to bring that down here and name it carriage. All right, not cartage, carriage. Okay, all right. So I already kind of know where the opening is, but let's go ahead and the reason I'm doing that is you'll see here is we don't know how the cloner is going to want to read that. So what we want to do is let's call this carriage, and we're going to go in here and we're going to set this to object. And we're going to pull in our arms tracer, and we're going to set this to vertex. Okay. And now when we put our carriage in there, we should get something that looks a lot like that, which isn't what we want at all. So let's come back down here and let's do align, hit align clone or fix clone. Okay. Not sure. Actually, that's probably it. Oh, I know what we did too. Okay. And so, let's just do minus. All right. Okay. And so one of the things we have to do is we have to move our axis, okay, for that. So let's just click this off and go back in here, deselect that, and come back in here to this. object. All right. And we want to grab our enable axis tool so we can move it. And let's go into the front port F4. And let's just go ahead and, snapping, enable snap. And let's see, edge snap. And so what we want to do is on this carriage is just drag this up till it snaps to that edge. And if we go to the end, no, we can't see anything there. All right. Yeah, that should do it. That should do it. Okay, let's turn off the enable snapping and turn off the axis tool. Go back into our main port, F1. And now let's hit our cloner on. And we're not, went the wrong way. Okay, so let's go in here and let's make this plus 90. Okay, all right, so that's looking not great. So one thing we can do real quick here is let's click a null into our viewport because we need to get rid of half of these. And if you put it above, it looks like mine got rid of the right half. Okay. And then we need to transform this. Oops, not on Y, but on Z. Okay. And so let's move those back. And this is why I wanted to wait on finishing this off. We need to create a nicer looking hub. That looks kind of crappy. Okay. But we got the gist of it here. So let's see, yep, everything's working. Okay, so let's go back and we could, move our carriages back a little bit and go into our hubs and let's just grab another. We'll just duplicate that cylinder. Okay, and move it. And what we need to do is either make it larger or smaller. Let's see what larger looks like. Oh, that looks kind of pretty cool. Except no, that's all messed up. That's not right at all. Okay, so we make the height so it's more of a bushing. And we need to move it. Yeah, okay. So that looks pretty cool. However you want to do it is fine, Okay. All right, so the next step is we got to get this thing to look more like a carriage. And in order to do that, we're going to have to find out where that hole is. And this is where I was kind of starting before. So let's turn that off. And let's just take a chance and go into polygon mode. And let's just select this polygon. All right. And we'll go back and click our cloner back on. And it doesn't help us a bit. So we'll turn that off. And let's just create a new material. Make it red or something, just something you can see. And we're just going to stick that on that one polygon face. Now, if we click this, there we go. So it's letting us know that we do have the right polygon selected. All right. So let's click that back off. And we can actually get rid of that. We don't want that. And we don't get rid of your tag too. That's just for that polygon. So all we want to do is come in here and let's extrude inner and pull that in a little bit. And that looks pretty good. And if you hold down Control and grab that arm, it'll make an automatic recess and give you the geometry. So one thing I want to do is I want to go into display and go into lines, and now I can see, it's a kind of a mess, but I can see where the bottom is. And if you just don't hold anything down, just grab that while it's still selected, you can push that down a little farther and make it a deeper carriage. Okay, so get out of that mode. And let's get out of that mode, go back to hidden, no, let's go back to, what did I have? Garage shading, I guess, okay. All right, so we've got our thing, but really we want it to be We want it to be a little bit convex, okay? So if we go into top mode, and let's just kind of get rid of all that stuff. That'll do it. Okay, so this is our carriage from the side. Go into point mode and go into the rectangle selection, but make sure that only select visible objects is deselected, because we want to select all of these bottom points. And if you hold down T and just drag this, it'll give you a perfect little convex deal. All right, get out of there, go back to this. Let's go back to our cloner and turn all our stuff back on. And now we have our carriages. They have a nice little taper to them, and everything should work. And it does. Okay. So really, we're almost done. Again, like I said, you can make this, this apparatus look any way you want. And the back apparatus is basically, if you want to do, I built the whole thing to it. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just copying and pasting, this mechanism to the back. But what I did is remember how we created this rail here? I did a similar thing for the back rail. Let's just do it real quick. So let's just make another copy, hold on Control and pull another copy of this main matrix. We're going to name it outer track, or whatever you want. Okay, get rid of that. And we're going to basically do this just as what I did before. So let's move this. There we go. Okay. And you see that we still have these matrices apart, which we needed before. But if you just get rid of this tag, okay, just delete that. Now all those matrices are going to line up perfectly where we need them, and I'll show you in a second. So let's take, with that outer track matrix selected, go up to Mograph and choose a tracer. And we're going to trace, connect all objects, deselect trace vertices, go to cubic, close the spline, and make it uniform. 8 is good. Okay. And also, let's take out the animation for that outer track matrix. We don't need that. And so now, let's go ahead and bring this down. This is going to be, I'm just going to select it, copy this. Okay. It's important to name all this stuff so you can figure out, later what everything is. Oops, that's not the right place. Lathe. And again, whatever. Just to whatever taste you want here. We do that. And so I'm just going to take my outer track, the matrices, and move that in till it's kind of touching. If you're going to see this from the back, you're going to have to do more than I'm doing. That's for sure. And then just throw this on there so we can see it. Okay. So that's basically it. And the kind of cool thing, well, it's it, but it's not it. We still have to do these arms. But that's okay. The kind of cool thing is this rectangle. If I change this, okay, everything still works. All right. You may have to adjust those arms a little bit, but everything still works. And you can make this shape, and you can even change the curvature. Now if you get too crazy, and you see how both rails now are changing. The back rail is changing, the front rail is changing. That's the nice part about building a rig like this that's all based off of one object, okay? And that matrix object is like key to all that. So I want to put all this back to where I had it. 1400 here, and this is 1550. Okay. Not that it matters, but now did you see that there was a little bit of delay? I may have, yeah, this inner track sweep should probably be down here below the matrix, okay? And if you get things jumping like that, weird or whatever, that's probably the issue. You've got some kind of priority issue. Okay, so in the armatures that I showed in the video at the beginning, they're not these tubes, and the tubes are fine if you want to do the tubes. By all means, use those. But I do want to show you one other thing that's kind of cool with this. But before I do, I'm going to show you how to give these things some movement and actually make them tip. Then I'm going to do the arms. That way, if you don't care about learning more about the arms, you at least will learn the part about making these move. All right, and so, you know, my philosophy for most of this stuff is using cloners, matrix objects, all of that. And the reason is if I'm going to animate it, okay, I want to be able to use the all these qualities like the built-in rate for this. You know, you can, just by changing this, you can make this thing go as fast or as slow as you want. And how cool is that, you know? And the other thing that you really want to take advantage of by using, you know, matrix or cloners are the effectors. And so we're going to give this these carriages, okay, these holder things. They need some extra movement. All right. So we're going to do that. Now I have my random effector here, but if you know, you can just go under here and choose random effector. All right. You want to have that selected. Okay. And right away, you're going to see things go wacky. All right. Because we want to deselect position. Okay. And what we want to do is rotation. And I believe, yeah, about 6% in here in H. And now you're going to see these go a little wacky. All right. Well, actually, they're not going wacky at all. They're not doing what I really want them to do. So, but we are going to get them to do what we want them to do. So let's go into the random effector tab. And so in the effector tab, let's change random to noise. Okay. And we'll just hit play. That's not too bad. We got some nice shake going on. I don't know if you can see that. You can see them moving a little bit. And if that's too much, what you want to do is crank down your animation speed. Yeah, that's got a nice movement to it. Put it up to 10. And so it just adds a little bit of realism to that, to those little carriages. And so I actually did make a dynamic rig where spheres or cubes were dropped into these, and then they dump out over here. And I'm going to show you how to do that again. Let's call this carriage shake. And I'm going to just move that down to the bottom just to keep all my effectors at the bottom. And so what we want, this is, you know, again, pretty simple. I'm going to select the carriage cloner, go up to Mograph effector, and we'll just grab a plane effector. You saw everything jump because this is the mode. We don't want that mode. We want rotation. And we probably want, let's see, yep, H and, okay, so that would dump out, right? That's pretty cool. That looks like it would dump out. But, of course, we don't want them all dumping. So let's go into the fall off tab. And if we create a sphere, works pretty well, I found. I'm just going to blow that up a little bit. And you, again, put this anywhere you want. And let's see. Yeah, we'll just make that one the dumper. And bigger. Actually, no, I don't. Okay. And we're gonna carriage dumper. All right, and we'll just move that down here, and I'm gonna just hide that because I don't want to look at that. So now, these things will automatically dump and write themselves. Pretty cool. That's the beauty of using these cloner, this Mograph cloner and matrix objects, and you can do so much with these effectors. Okay, so if you're not joining us for the redoing these arms, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot, and the rest of us, let's move on. Okay, so let's create these arms, and let's turn all these cloners off. Go ahead and hide this stuff. Yeah, I want to turn these off so we're not looking at that. And so let's go into the arms 1, and we're just going to turn that cloner off so we have, and go into the front mode F4 just so we can see one arm. All right, and let's grab a rectangular spline, just kind of line it up roughly with that, and yeah, get it roughly the same size as this. I'm gonna make it a little wider, about like that, maybe. That looks good. And actually, I'm gonna make it just a little narrower. I had 45 and 295. Okay, and now we can turn that off too. We'll just hide that cloner. All right, so what we want to do is go ahead and hit the C key because we want to convert that, go into point mode, and we want to create an outline. And so I already know that -15 works pretty well. Actually, yeah, that'll work. Then go in, grab these outer points, and we just want to give them some chamfering so they're not sticking out of our thing. I had 20, I think that worked before. Yeah, that looks like it works. And then let's go and move the axis. We want to move that down so it's kind of in our hub area. Be about there. That'll work. Okay. So let's name that arm ARM. And let's open up our cloner. I'm going to turn that back on. I'm going to move this arm out and hide it. And then I'm going to take our arm and move it into here and turn that cloner on. And let's see. Okay. So we've got our arms in there and they're facing the right direction, but you can see they're way off. So if we go into our cloner and go into transform, and nope, not Y. Okay, we just want to move that Z in a bit till those are, yeah, till it's kind of centered in there. Okay, and now we need to go up here and get an extrude. Again, like I've got this automatic extrude thing. And the reason that did that is because we got a new center now. All right, but we'll fix that. All right, the radius is way too much. Let's put it down to 1 and 1. And do constrain it. There we go. Make it a little cleaner. And there's enough of an edge on there. Yeah, this don't need to be 5. 3 and 3 is good. So now, let's see if we can move it this way. And yeah, Move it back and get it where we need it. Okay. And let's turn on our hubs and see what that looks like. Okay. So now, yeah, they're looking, you know, pretty cool. The extrude may be too deep, I think. Probably doesn't need to be 20, but we don't want it too thin. Maybe 15. And you can see that this needs to move out. Maybe to there. It looks good. All right. And let's get our other arm. Take this. And let's just pull that out. And we'll hide that too. And take this whole thing, hold down Control, and put it below the null. And then we want to turn that on. I'm not sure that's right. There we go. Okay, and now we got to move that one. Let's go in here to transform. Let's see what we transform the other one on. Okay, it's on Z. So let's go in here, transform that on Z. And let's turn the hubs off so we can see. And we need to turn arms 1 off so we can get that lined up right. Back in the front mode. That's not too bad. Okay. Turn that back on. Turn our hubs on so we can see how they're lining up. Probably going to have to move them a little. Yeah. You make them as thick as you want or position them however you want. It's got a lot of flexibility with this, and all of it will still keep working. That's the other beauty of building it this way. All right, so I'm tossing these arms. I don't need them. And let's turn everything back on. And there we have it. Okay. Hit play, and we've got a fully functioning conveyor system that actually will convey things and dump them and everything else. Okay, well, so thanks a lot for joining me. Hope you learned a lot. And we'll see you next time here at Airbrush One. All right, take care.